Okay, we're off. Hello, everyone. Hello. Good to see you. Good
Hello.
to see you. So excited for this next round table. I was just sharing before we went live. Particularly excited because I know this topic lives in all of us in different ways, and that you're working, especially you three, are working very much professionally. Let's call it with people in this topic. So I'm really curious and excited to weave this wisdom together, and always actually kind of, I feel shaky saying it, but kind of honored and humbled that people that they're choosing to kind of say yes to these new ideas and new topics and new explorations that we're doing with the temple. So thank you for showing up and thank you for saying yes. Yeah, and we'll send a love note to David, who couldn't make it today. So David, you're still with us in this conversation, very much so. We're gonna maintain the structure of these, and just to reinforce the structure of these around the tables, it literally is that kind of ritualistic practice of everyone in turn going around the table. So I will actually now define the table, because you probably all have different tables online.
The talking stick.
The talking stick is gonna go Rob, Angie, Chloe, Sarah, and then back to me. And we'll keep going around and see what emerges from that. Yeah, so as a first round, just to kick us off, just going to invite us all to share who we are, where we are in the world, what we do for people, and how we're connected to this theme being inner value, inner wealth and value, and authentic success, and the combination of all of those things. We might kick straight off with Angie, actually. Yeah, let's kick off with you, and then we'll come back to us at the end.
Perfect. My name's Angie Cole. I am the creator of Untaming the Wild. And we do all kinds of things, but really the primary role that I play is I'm a business and leadership coach. And in particular, I am excited to work with people who are trying to do those things differently. And so that looks like bringing our intuition and our instinct into legitimate business practice, and integrating more feminine energies. And that doesn't just mean female, but just a different paradigm of business. The one we have is hyper masculine. I won't get on that soapbox quite yet, but just the idea that a lot of the ways that we've been told that business must be and that leadership must be in order to be successful is a bunch of hoo-ha, and really doesn't work for a whole lot of people, and leaves out so much of the world of creativity and possibility and innovation and sustainability and all of those things. So that's the world in which I work and play. So my connection to this topic, I certainly never started out thinking, well, actually, even that I would be a business coach. I knew I was a coach. I knew that that was my path, but I didn't know that was going to intersect with business. And I certainly didn't think that was going to intersect with money and money mindset. But as I learned pretty quickly, you can't work with people around their work and their business without touching that topic. So, that all started for me about 7 years ago in earnest. And I remember sitting in my little home office at the time, and I had big sheets of flip chart paper all over the walls and markers, and trying to figure out who the hell I am and what I do. And at the top of this one chart, I just wrote money, I wrote value, and I wrote worth. I had no idea what that was going to mean, but I just had this near obsession with trying to understand those words and what they mean and what we've made them mean and how they're different. And so that's really been a big part of my journey this last 7 years as I've been running my business. And I've come to understand a lot about those and how we can work with them differently. And then, my own personal journey with that has been recognizing how conditional my own positive self-regard has been, how conditional my self-worth has been. And so that's at the root of this for me, is removing those conditions and understanding how they got there and what to do about it. Oh, I didn't say where I am. I'm currently sitting in Croatia down on the southern coast, and I'll be leaving here in a couple of days, good Lord willing, and the creeks don't rise, to go to Portugal.
Thank you. Thank you, Angie.
I think that's it.
Oh, should I just take off?
Yeah,
next?
just take off.
Okay. Incredible. Thanks, Angie, for the share and introduction. So I'm Chloe Handelman. I am currently in Bali. I actually next week, hopefully, am going home back to the States for a quick little Christmas experience, just praying the world stays as it does and I can go home and come back here, because current situation, I can do that. So just hoping that still happens. I miss my family and want to do a little reset back home. So my profession, how I help, I liked, Ed, how you said how you help people, or what you do with people. I don't like labels. I changed it. I keep changing it with whatever season it is. I'm like, what am I? Most current thing I'm talking is saying is mindset transformation and empowerment coach. And I also work with breathing at a very basic conscious level, daily breathing exercises. I'm also a breath coach in that regard. That's what I kind of do, and how I support people is really in helping them. What I've really gotten honed so much more into is that I really support people who are in their path to financial or lifestyle or career freedom, really get a solid foundation for their mindset and emotional balance along the way. And really, I'm coming across in Bali, you've got a lot of new entrepreneurs and people who are just starting out online, and there's a bombardment of coaches online who are really consultants, who are really supporting and teaching people how to make money online. Whereas I really want to focus more on the personal development journey of the creation of business. And so that's really kind of where I'm at, and where I feel really super connected to this topic that we're here to discuss today is all in regards to authentic success. I didn't realize even I didn't even have that phrasing come the beginning of this year. And I really noticed it through my own journey, working in corporate engineering background, got a corporate consulting gig right off the bat. I was doing the thing that everyone wanted to do, and I got there and I was like, okay, I'm successful, making the money. I have this job. I get to fly all over the country, whatever. And this isn't success to me. And so for me, it was really starting to shift my life, and my journey had been, I would change my life, and I wasn't aligned with that new lifestyle change, and I still didn't feel successful, and I still didn't feel successful, and I just still didn't feel successful. And my journey to really understanding what success was to me and realizing that I get to define it at all times, no matter what, was really why I feel so connected to this topic. And all I want to do is make sure that people along their journeys are really becoming hyper aware that they define their means and bounds for success, whether that's in their business, whether it's in a relationship, or even an Instagram post. Like, what does success mean from at any point, so that when we can define that, we can end up having a more seamless and enjoyable journey. So that's where I feel connected into the topic. If I forgot anything, I'm sure I'll have a chance to speak again. So
I hope so, unless one person just speaks for the whole time. It's a little guy now we forgot to mention.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chloe.
Hi, so I'll go. So I'm Sara Maxwell. I'm in Manchester in the UK, and which feels actually really boring compared to all of your traveling around everywhere. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a little bit jealous about you. You've not been in the UK, I guess. I've been able to get out of the UK for quite a while. So yeah, ready to travel, I think is how I'd describe myself. So I am really passionate about injecting colour, joy, energy into the world of financial services. So I founded a business called Wealth Coach in order to do that, really. So my business is designed to allow people to feel empowered and connected to their money, to their value, to their worth. So for me, this subject ties in quite heavily to everything that I do day to day with people. So that's really, I guess, giving people the space to understand their connection to money, what they want that connection to look like, and creating a bit more of a positive relationship, removing blocks. Yeah, so this is huge for me. This is kind of what I'm all about. So I'm really excited, and it's lovely to meet you all and see such happy, alive faces. So yeah, I'm keeping it short.
Great, thank you, Sam.
All right.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Edward. I'm in Crete. What do I do for people? That is a good question. I can tell you like what I'm certified in, and then I can tell you where these things are kind of melting together. So I'm kind of, I studied management, but I am a certified personal trainer, shamanic practitioner, spiritual life coach, and body psychotherapist, core energetics. And I'm also the founder of the temple. And the reason, I guess, why this topic for me feels so juicy or delicious is because for many years I've been in that space of like having things on paper and knowing a lot of things, but not really understanding or finding my value and my voice, and then bringing together all of these things. And it's only been recently that it's, I guess, really kind of started to align, and a lot of that has been actually thanks to many conversations, including some one-to-one sessions with Sara, which have been so beautiful. And really, my journey with it has been one of seeing how colleagues or people in very similar fields would be offering their services, so sessions, workshops, retreats, and then realizing after years of kind of taking that road that wasn't really close. That's not really who I am, and I enjoy it and I can do it, but I wasn't feeling alive. I wasn't feeling that, I've hit that sweet spot where I'm in my space, in my leadership. And it's only been in the past few months, I would say, although of course we can see the process has taken years to get to this stage, where I've started to really well ask myself, what is my authentic success? What is it that I want to create? What is really true for me? And start to really own my value, but not in comparison to what I see outside of myself. What are other practitioners doing? What are other body psychotherapists doing? What are other XYZ doing? And start to really look inwards and kind of go, okay, where is that? And a big piece of that has actually been in the piece of leadership. So we created the temple, it's been ongoing since 2017 in a very different format. This year it really shifted into this format, and it's still landing and growing. And a big piece has really been choosing, really, at some subtle level, choosing to own my leadership in this space, for example. And to choosing to own the value that I bring, which is still at times of intangible, and it's not as tangible as, I help people do this and that, and then there's a clear kind of value for that, or I help my clients move here to there, move from A to Z. I'm still understanding that. So that's my connection to this topic. It's still a work in process. So I'm really curious to hear and to see how this conversation develops, both for the conversation, but also personally to really receive that gift of owning owning, I want to say, with more clarity, that piece of value. Money, success, value have such important challenges in my personal and professional life for as long as I can think of. I grew up very poor, used to go to charity shops. My parents moved to France when I was 5, were farmers, and for the first 10 years it was just really hard. And they had 4 kids. I've got a twin, I've got 2 younger brothers who are twins as well. And so that was like a setup for me. So I feel like now I'm like coming out of this contracted place into a more expanded place. So I feel that's why I'm bringing maybe to this conversation. It's very much also a felt experience with that. And it's still, as you can probably feel it, it's still here. Yeah. That's what I want to say for now.
I thought you were never going to stop. So, yeah, I'm Rob. And for those of you that can't see a screen in front of you or just listening, I'm actually sat on the couch next to Ed in Crete. And I run the temple with Ed, but my job as such is I'm also a body psychotherapist, but an executive coach and mentor, and I guess you call it fundraising strategist for NGOs and non-profits. So a lot of my clients are based in England, even though I live in Crete. And on this topic, because I completely forgot about this round the table, so I haven't thought much about it, but I've only been doing what I currently do for the last 5 years as something separate. Prior to that, I spent 20 years as chief executive of a charity in London. And that was working with different groups of people who, to fit into the terminology, we used to call them disadvantaged or disenfranchised. And it was a real passion for me to really show people their value, show people that they had a place in the world, that they were worthy of success, that they were worthy of receiving, and working with lots of different groups and organisations to achieve that. But the one thing I can sit back now and recognise was not seeing my own value in that, not seeing what I was worth and not seeing my place in the world. It was very much externalised to supporting somebody else to do something, but from a space of my mind, not feeling it for myself. And stepping out of that and slowly being able to recognise that within myself and see my inner value and see my inner worth and be able to express that and ask for that in a way. So I'm really curious just to see what sort of wisdom comes from around the table today, because I think for me it's a journey I'm still on. But yeah, that's me.
Nice and short. Nice. Let's go for another round. Angie, maybe you have things to add or reflect what's been shared.
So many things.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. First round. So, yeah, I mean, I could dive into the deep end, which is for me where this does intersect with systemic oppression of all kinds. And I think to set the context. So the way I think about these different aspects and the work that I've been developing is looking at money, value, and worthiness as 3 separate things. And noticing that what I see as I started to try to untangle this was that we'd collapsed all 3 of those things. We'd collapsed wealth and money, and you framed it as inner wealth, but really outer wealth is also the thing. Like, people would come to me to work on their business and work on their careers, and then where we would pretty quickly bump up against was their sense of self-worth, that they were blocked around receiving more money and creating more wealth and stepping more into taking up space and expanding, because they had this deep sense of not being worthy, not being deserving. So as I started to untangle those, it became really important to me to be clear on that those 3 things are different, and how we understand them and define them in my work really matters. So money, obviously is one external thing that we use to reflect value. Value is a relationship. So something only has value if someone else agrees that it has that value for them. So value is highest when that match is the most, 100%. What I need and what you have are really high, have a high degree of, what's the word I'm looking for? They match up. Yeah.
Alignment.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great word. And there are a few things that increase value. One is rarity or scarcity. If I have, so I'm holding up a pen for people who are just listening. If I have the only one of these for a 10-mile radius, this has a ton of value because it's a scarce thing. There's not a lot of it. If everybody in 10 miles around has 100 of these sitting on their table, the value of it changes. The very same thing changes just depending on how much of it there is. So match and preciousness are things that create value, and there has to be an external agreement. And so value can go up and down depending on those two things. And then worthiness is unconditional. Worthiness doesn't change, and it doesn't require agreement. So where so many of us, myself included, still can really experience so much suffering is when we treat those as if they're all the same. So how much money I have and how much my value is reflected or not back to me from the world is connected to my sense of self-worth, which is a really fundamental human need to feel worthy. It can really create a lot of suffering. And it's why we see a lot of hustle and burnout around being productive and being, producing things in the world and creating for the external, because what we're really trying to do is fill this need of worthiness. And another thing I discovered was when we're doing that, when we're trying to get the external to meet an internal need, it's never full. It never works. We might get it for just a minute. We might get it in that moment that we celebrate and we get the new client and we get the new win and we get we put the check in the bank. But it's like any other addiction. Then it goes. It's like the bottom is always draining out. We're always filling it and it's draining, and we're filling it and it's draining. And that's how burnout happens. And that's how, all other kinds of addiction and basically just trying to not feel that feeling all the time happens. So the implications of this really are just so huge. And as we start to understand that those things are different and begin to be able to work with them separately, here's the other difference I see in a lot of the world around the conversation of self-worth or even money is making one good and one bad. That we make any one of those three things better or worse than the other. They're all important. It is absolutely okay and important and healthy to feel valuable. It's a basic human need to contribute and to know that someone else finds your contribution valuable. It's not that that's a bad thing. It's a really good, important thing, and it becomes a healthy, functional, not dysfunctional thing when it's separate, when I unhook my sense of self-worth from that thing. The last thing I'll say about that. The other place this really shows up and gets in our way is we unintentionally make other people responsible for our self-worth. We outsource self-love. We outsource worthiness. Because then I'm, good Lord, if I could go back and tell my 20-year-old self this. That's what I did for much of my life in the attempt to outsource those things to get that need met. Man, I tried to find as many people as possible to tell me that I was good enough in the form of boyfriends, girlfriends, friends, coworkers, bosses, clients, right? And it was really so exhausting because I was always on the lookout for the next person that was going to confirm for me that I was okay, that I was lovable, that I was enough. And it's really just a crappy thing to put on other people. So when we get this and when we start to pull these apart and relate with them differently, it also changes our relationships completely. That's what I'll say about that for now.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow. That was incredible. There's a lot coming in for me as you're speaking, especially around value, like, because when I speak on success, authentic success and whatnot, I really use values and personal values as an incredible metric. And so the way that you're describing value and in terms of needing the match that values, I was even like, the value on personal values then is like, I mean, like my mind was like, wait, where does this work? And I was like, what? But it was like, but like the value of personal values is then increased when there's the match. And so then if you're seeking to be valued by other people and in alignment, like what you're saying with other people, you are then more apt to then adopt those values that others have and or perceive others to have, because we've all in many Western societies have been conditioned in such a way to value doing, you know, the masculine energy in the workplace, you know, never giving ourselves a time to break and never failing, right? So like all of these different aspects. And so for me, really what's so powerful is how do you create value of your authentic values, or the values that are not aligned with others, or maybe it does seem more rare and more scarce actually. So maybe that's kind of how it offsets. I'm just kind of like looking at your metrics with the term value, because I mean, so many people value, you could say you value freedom, but are you actually then making choices and aligning your entire life around attaining freedom? And not just in a sense of physical freedom, but mental, emotional, all of these different aspects. And if it's a value in business, are you also valuing that in personal relationships and whatnot? So a lot of what you're speaking to on value is really striking a chord with me in so many ways, because I can't remember where in the conversation, this is where it'll get fun. I'm like, someone said something about conditioning. I think Angie, you said that at the beginning, was like, we have all been programmed in such a way to do these things that if we're not taught to separate money, value, worthiness, if we're not taught to pause and be like, wait, like Ed said, what do I actually want? If you don't look at the coach who's telling you how to run your business and say, wait, is that actually how I want to run my business? Is that authentic to me? It's these pauses that we're not really afforded in general life, in busy life, back in 9 to 5, right? Go, crash on the couch, watch Netflix, go. And so we don't even have and many people don't even know that there is the opportunity to have a 10-minute pause and question some of these things we need to separate, and some of these things we need to do our own self-reflection on and really get aligned to our authenticity and who we are, and realize that who we are adds so much value to the world, and just standing in that can be enough in many ways. And inspire others to do so as well. So that's where my rant just ended. I'm like, is there anything else in there? I think I'm good.
I love what both of you just said, actually. And one thing that really stood out for me, and I think it did the same for you, Chloe, was, you know, making other people responsible for your self-worth. That's absolutely like gigantic. It's one of the biggest things. And I truly believe that you can just take the decision. So I feel you can decide to know your own worth. I think it is just a decision away. And I think lots of things are just a decision away, but it takes making that decision. And it's quite a hard decision to make, because you've spent your entire life conditioned in the, oh, okay, so if that person thinks I've done a great job, then I've done a great job, rather than, oh, do I believe I've done a great job and that's actually enough? So I feel like that decision process, having your own decision process, is the most important thing, because other people's judgment then can't touch you. So it matters. So people that you love and care about and how they feel matters, and you might want to then describe to somebody why you don't believe their judgment is correct in a very kind and compassionate way, but you're coming from a place of having made that decision. So whilst that can waver, and you'll have days where you think, oh my goodness, am I strong enough to hold fast on this decision that I'm worthy, or that I have my true value? I also think, just from a journaling perspective, writing notes around why you're unique, why you're different, you know, why that's absolutely fabulous, why you want to be different. You know, if everybody was the same, if everybody just copied everybody else, and we just created a very, very similar human being, wouldn't life be dull? Wouldn't it be really uninteresting? So I think having your own unique values, beliefs, and just trying so hard to hold them, not too tightly, because you might work out that actually some of your values and beliefs don't work out for you, and you know, you want to change them, but that should be your decision. That shouldn't be imposed by anybody else. So yeah, to kind of round up how I feel about all of that, it's a decision. You're making that decision for yourself, and I think everybody has the power to make that decision.
Oh wow, so much to take in there from all of the interventions, all of the experience, I want to say. Something I kind of forgot to add in my introduction was, part of the coaching I do is a form of coaching called Find Your Magic, which is very much connecting people to, you know, that essence in them that is absolutely there 100% of the time. That is what I would also maybe call that inner worthiness. And from that space, when we're in that part of ourselves, life just feels a lot easier, and we are of service to life without perhaps even knowing it, just by being in that alignment with who we are. And so I'm noticing in myself through this conversation, there's two things. There's a part that says, you don't know how to value. You're here to just learn. You need to value yourself. You don't know much about worth. And there's another point that's going, hang on, like, there's obviously something that I am supporting others in my own unique way. So there's this combination of things here, which I'm just going to speak what comes, but I'm wondering how much of this conversation of, you know, our worth, our value is, well, as you've all said, actually, conditioned in the mind, these constant questioning. This is my experience, questioning, am I doing the right thing? Is this, you know, is this my path? Oh, have I gone off my path for a few milliseconds and I'm lost, or whatever it is? And there's the other, maybe more real experience of like knowing it and doing it and being it and not analyzing it too much. So, and I'm not saying that we are analyzing it, I'm just saying that's a question. That's in my experience. Yeah, in my experience, I've been with this question for a long, long time. And I know many people are very much in that question. Even when we found, this thread of where we feel like, oh, this is juicy and I'm alive and I'm in my flow, I'm in my magic, that voice that comes in, hang on, are you, is this really what you need to be doing? Is this right by the invisible God that is on your shoulder? And this just takes us out of that moment, takes us out of that. It takes me out of that anyway. Yeah, so I'm just noticing that right now, and it's really juicy as an exploration, and everything that's been shared I'm taking in. I love, Angie, what you said about separating those three things, which makes so much sense. So much sense. And I'm going to try not to make too much sense of it, because otherwise the mind's going to... Yeah.
So I've got to admit, I found it really hard not to sit here and go, yes, yes, yes. It's like, because I agree with everything that's been said. But when I think about it, to me, there is no such thing as inner value. I think, Angie, you said it, it's all about outer value. Because to me, if you say the inner value, then you're basically creating a scale. And for me, there is either you're worthy or you're not worthy. That's self-belief. And so everything outside of that is where the value is. It's where we place that value. And if I think about it as, the conditioning, the evolution, I see it as it's just our human condition. We're born, we go through a process of individualization as a baby, and we are who we are. We know exactly what we want as a baby. And then we start to place value and become conditioned by wanting to receive something. So we want to receive milk from the mother, or care from the mother, father, caregiver, and love and cuddles. So we place value on the outer thing rather than stay within what we want. And so we become conditioned to that, and we adapt ourselves, we adapt our behaviors, we adapt our beliefs. And I think that just affects everything, every decision in life. And I think it's that looking outside for that value is losing that connection with the self. And for me, what I found is it's been very much about having to go back to that inner space of what is it worth for me? What is it the true thing that I really want in this situation? And I think we touched on it a little bit. One of my struggles has been, I'm a white male, privileged in Western society. And so I already have value just because of who I am and what I look like. And having a desire for equality and equity within life, I automatically see that as, well, I need to counteract that. I need to find a balance to counteract that in order to feel as though I'm not taking advantage of people, or I'm receiving my true worth because of what I'm giving, not because I'm a white privileged male. And so that becomes an inner struggle for me. And what I found over the last 5 years is that actually, what is the thing that I value the most? What is it I'm giving? And then, as Angie said, like going out into the world, and what's that value? And letting go of where someone doesn't see the value in it. There's not alignment, that's fine. It doesn't mean to say I'm any less worthy. It just means there is no alignment with this person, and being able to let that go. But also on the counter side of that, also seeing my value for what I provide, what I give in service, fits different environments. So not feeling guilty for doing what I do and charging what I would call a London price, and then coming to Greece and charging a fifth of that. And it's like, I don't feel any less worthy, or I don't feel any less value for what I'm providing for clients here in Crete to the clients I provide in London. But I see an alignment with my market, for want of a better word. And that's where I feel the value. That's where I can see it's coming from that inner space of this is the connection I want. So it's not about the actual dotted line pound sign or dollar sign. It's more about my connection, my alignment with that person. And I think that's always the struggle. That's the space where I have to go back to that inner conditioning. And it's like this is what it should be. Now, I'm X, I'm Y, therefore I'm worthy of this, or I'm not worthy of this. And there's like that constant struggle.
Man number 3, Angie.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding.
So, let's see. It's emerging for me. I'll start on this thread. Yeah, I mean, where this intersects with social justice, anti-racism work, feminist work, for me is, I mean, et cetera, ableism, all of the isms, is that a very narrow, there's a very, very narrow pin, head of a pin definition of who those people are who are truly worthy and who have the greatest value. And even in the segment of the population that are straight white males, even they have to uphold a very narrow expression of what that is in order to be given that, that adoration, that pass of being value and not needing to constantly prove their value. So that's where all of this falls apart and becomes really problematic, is if you're not that, then you're screwed. Then just like forget it. You're going to spend the rest of your life feeling not good enough, apologetic for even being here, really. Even if you're a straight white woman, you better be like the thinnest, prettiest, blondest, most perfect version of that. And even that, that's really still only your value in the context of the macho straight white man, right? So, yeah, so they all intersect. And sorry, I'm being distracted. Can you hear a weird mechanical sound in the background?
No.
Okay. All right, I can, but I will just ignore it. We can edit that part out if we need to. Okay. Or not, because my worthiness is fine, right? So, and this is a great segue into the next part, which is, man, when I can separate those two, then I don't take everything so fucking personally, right? And I don't get so, because remember the way I describe value is it does require agreement. And so what happens when somebody else doesn't agree, when somebody else, or when I really do fall short, or when I make a mistake, or when I mess up? If those things are separate, I don't take it so personally. It's not so devastating. It doesn't feel like a wound when that happens, because my worthiness is still intact. And that has really been tested this year, let me tell you, because all the things that, when my value shifted this year, and for me, that looked like I just scaled way, way back. My ambition to create and produce went down to like 2.5%. And that was really uncomfortable, because a lot of my identity and the things that feel really good to me actually are around like being high energy and being out there and being vocal and saying a lot of things and being really visible. And all of that hugely shifted. I had some feelings to work through, because value does feel good. It's okay that it feels good. But when I then came back to, okay, let me do my own work and take my own medicine to make sure these are separate. Where this is so powerful is what happens when I'm not that valuable? What happens when I really screw up? What happens when I don't know, don't keep my commitments or don't uphold my side of the external value? Can I still be compassionate, loving, and kind to myself? That's where this is really a game changer, because, you know, through so many times in this last 7 years that I've been on this quest, I had to just really sit down with myself and say, well, how about now? Even now? Can you do it now? Can you love this now, just like this? My body is a big frontier for me in that way. So here's the good news, bad news. Because I got the money part handled. Like, I separated that. I actually have more money in my bank account than I ever thought humanly possible. Like, all of that is awesome and great. And I don't feel like it could go up or down, and that's not affecting my self-worth. Like, I'm cool, right? Well, bad news is once I handled that part, then I got to look at all of the other conditions that I had placed around my sense of self-worth and self-acceptance and self-love. And my body is a huge one of those. My body has changed more in the last year than ever before in my life, and not like in negative ways, we would call them. I'm 44 years old. I'm getting older. My skin is changing. I've gained, I don't even know how many pounds at this point. So many. I'm only wearing elastic and linen, no pants. But man, did I really have to look at that part, because that's my value, right? As a woman in particular, my body has been made a commodity. And when that commodity has really lost its value, oh man, what do I do with that? Can I show up for myself and be sweet and loving and kind and patient and encouraging even in that? The answer is yes, but it's been tough. So, you know, all those, that's where the conditioning plays into this, and where it's a personal game changer as well, is when we can be with those things differently and not take it personally. And why this is so much bigger than just what you're, you know, raising your rates. Like, yes, I want you to raise your rates for your business, but I want you to do it because it is a freaking act of like social anarchy. That's why I want you to do it. That's why I want all of us to make all the money. I think we've really gone astray a lot in the world of like personal development and spirituality when we villainized wealth. I want us to have all the money so we can really do this differently. I don't know how much swearing we're allowed to do. I'm a heavy swearer. I really want us to be able to disrupt a lot of things. And right now, money is a big way that we do that. I don't know, maybe that's all going to fall apart and that won't be true 10 years from now. But right now, the lever of money has power, and I want us to have more of it. There we go.
Oh, you always leave me with so much to go on. I appreciate it. Oh, where do I start? It's powerful when you're speaking to the concept of the continuous journey. I'm newer into my personal development journey. Started a couple of years ago, and supporting others as well. And it's interesting that I'm attracting people, obviously, who are just a couple steps behind me, you know, in that regard. And so they're so hypercritical on, and just as I was, and still continue to find myself in this loop to this day, like hypercritical on why haven't I figured that out? Or like if I go through a period of depression, I'm like, well, I'm a mindset coach. I meant to be able to figure this out, and I manage my emotions. Like, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, right? And then look to my mentors, look at my peers, look at my colleagues who are all 7 years into their journey and 50 years into their journey, and they still are learning the lessons, right? And so through my own experience of that, I then see my clients who have just found meditation literally months ago, or maybe haven't even tried it. And this hypercriticality of like, why can't I figure this out? And why am I running into this problem again? And the recognition that it's as we all know here on this call, it's a whole evolution. It's a whole journey. It's a whole deconditioning. It's like a whole return back to who we truly are. And it's interesting how within those first couple of years of our life, I mean, 7 years subconscious mind, if we go there, that rule of thumb, how much we can actually absorb. And then depending on when you start your journey and uncovering the conditioning and whatnot, but how much it affects us and for years and years. And then we think we've got it in one area, then suddenly it's there in another. And so I just think it's powerful, especially for me and at my point in my journey, to look up to people who have been in this space for years and years longer than I have, and known and experienced so much more. And yes, they still are doing the work. And it's like, then when it's a time for me to do the work, this is all part of it. And it's all what I enjoy in it. And it's like, then a problem comes up and it's like, okay, what am I going to learn from it? Right. And I mean, when I was in that, it was just a month ago, actually, I had about a month of, you might hear some dogs. A month ago, I had this period where I was really quite in a dark place. And every single day I was like, what is the beauty and the lesson that I'm going to learn out of this? I'm really sorry if that's loud. And I was like, what's the beauty and the lesson? And I spent a week still dark, couldn't see lesson. And I was like, finally ends up out of it. And then the lessons drop.
That's fine.
That's right.
It's not
what's
dogs.
the lesson you can learn from this?
That our dogs are not friends. A friend is over and their dog doesn't like our dog. But yeah, so it's just even having that openness and acceptance of all that is. And I actually just did a little talk because Thanksgiving just happened, and I was talking about some problems with gratitude is we don't focus and be grateful for the things that go wrong and the beauty. And many of us who are well into our journey can now do that, but as a beginner level, or, when you first start introducing gratitude, you're only focusing on what goes well, and you're not even focusing on where the things kind of are not going well at all right now, and still being I'm grateful for the fact that this is going to teach me something. And having that, like, loosen your grip on what's going on, that it can be just there and happening and existing, and that somehow it's going to change your life for the way it's meant to. And so I think the dog distracted me. I think my thoughts were connected. They might not have been, but that's where my thoughts are at right now.
I love all that. And that kind of what really came up for me when you were talking then about sort of not having the gratitude, and what Angie said earlier about, other people's judgment. I got a real picture of, once you do disconnect from that outside judgment, you're kind of, I don't know, swimming in your own lane. You're kind of able to get on with things with less of the niggly little okay, what does that person think about me? What does that person think about me? And I have to say that I think value absolutely doesn't necessarily need to have anything to do with money. It doesn't need to be like pounds, dollars, euros. I think value is something, well, the way I talk about value is something totally different to like a monetary value. It's like your deep innate value of yourself, which I feel is really, really important to build on. And I recorded a podcast last week actually with another lady on how much is enough, and that is like a monetary version of how much is enough, which was really interesting. And we did quite a lot of research for the podcast, and what really came out of that research was that if you are always striving for more money, more money, more money, if it's a monetary thing in your mind, there will literally never be enough. You could be a multi-billionaire or whatever, and that just wouldn't be enough for you because you're constantly striving for more and more money. So I think just taking that value a little bit more off the money and figuring out your own true value of yourself, and you know, how you want to be in your life, I think is huge. And yeah, that picture came up in such a lovely way of what all of you guys have been describing, and I really truly believe that sort of removing other people's judgment and realizing that other people are going to judge you irrespective of whether you're yourself or you're trying to be a bit more like them, or you're trying to be a bit more like somebody else, or you know, so you might as well just get on with it and be who you are.
Yeah, that's also what I'm really receiving from this conversation, this the being who you are and the authenticity, but not from a mind level, from a real kind of intimacy. And that's something I feel like I'm missing in some level, like, you know, feeling really intimate with my business, you know, feeling really intimate with I don't know, what I want to be doing, what I want to be sharing with my message, you know. And when I'm in that space of figuring it out, or the outside, then that intimacy disappears, and it's very, you know, it's dry, it's empty, it doesn't have that fullness. Everything's a bit more contracted, and, you know, it's that kind of caffeine do vibe, and I experience it very much as that dryness when I'm intimate. I pause. Someone might share the word pause. I pause and I reflect, and I kind of sit down and go, okay, I'm sending this message, you know, what this one small 2-line message on Facebook, how can I be intimate with it? What's the energy I want to put forth with it? What's my value that I want to put into this? And I don't do it often. I know from our coaching with Sarah, that's one thing I need to focus on. That came from our last session. And from this conversation, it's becoming even more obvious, you know, because this is, I mean, that's that meeting point of, not even meeting point, it's kind of valuing or honoring, or my energy in it, my worthiness and my joy and my sense of presence, and my authenticity and my uniqueness, rather than kind of click-wire, I'm sending a message, it means everything I've been fed by Facebook and society in my life so far, or it's, I'm sending a message, what does it mean to me? Like, what is this, you know? And that's why I really love this exploration of the temple. Like, I'm really exploring these, for me, they're like concentric circles of our temples, our personal experience of source, our body, our home, our relationship, the temple of, you know, our hobbies, the temple of our partnerships, our friendships, the temple of our work, our websites, and how, like, all these different spaces that we can make like unique and authentic and of deep value, because I'm bringing the fullness of who I am to this particular space. So even in this Facebook message that I'm writing, you know, and I really want to remind myself is, how can I just pause and drop into the experience, the value, the worth, the success of what it means to me right now to do that. I'm really getting that from this conversation, and yeah, it's beautiful.
So much wisdom. I've had different words coming into my head as we've gone round the table, and it started off as individuality, then connection, but now I'm going to steal intimacy. Because for me, I was trying to apply what you've all said to my own story, and I was thinking how as individuals we adapt to our audience. And it's like what is value to me might be different to what is value to my mother or my father or my friends, and so I constantly adapt in order to have that. So if I want love from my mother, then this is the value I need to show to her. Or if I want love from my friend, this is the value I need to show to him or her. And I think that takes us away from what we really want. What we're after is the love or the connection with that person, but we're not actually placing the value on what it is we want. We're placing it on what the other person wants. And it becomes more about the connection rather than that inner self. And for me, I think one lesson that I can take away from this is actually it's more about intimacy with my needs, my value. What do I want? And I realised that if I go back 10 years, that individuality, that sense of connection, it was very much about the pound. It was about having the London apartment. It was about having the £50,000 BMW. It was about that's how I fitted in. That was where I saw my value. It was like I judged it in comparison to other people. How did I fit in? How did I compare to them? And I can look back now and say, actually, no, it's not that, because I place maybe more, if not equal amount of value in my life at the moment on that sense of freedom. You know, I'd much rather be in a position where if I get up in the morning and I want to go to the beach, I can go to the beach, rather than earning the money and having the extra money in the bank. And so I'm more focused, I feel more focused because I'm more intimate with my needs rather than the needs of a collective and needing to fit in with that collective. And I think for me, that's the biggest step anybody can take in terms of self-worth, in terms of inner value, is focus on what is your story, focus on what you need, rather than trying to fit in and create a mask, an image that meets somebody else's sense of value.
Yes. This is perfect lead into maybe a final round where we can bring in this, what you just talked about, like the take home. What is the one thing that we want to take home? We want to invite the listeners to take home as a practice or as a journaling prompt. And yeah, maybe this is a good round to do that in some closing comments. So yeah, we'll go around one more time.
So, let's see. Well, I guess I'll weave this in. So my practice right now, as Chloe said, because I'm still very, very much in my own journey. If anyone had told me that personal development never ended, I probably would never have started. Because it never ends. Just when you think you got it, then you get a new lesson. You get to learn more. So my practice recently has been a little something like this. And I think this definitely lends itself to some journaling. So when I notice I'm feeling worthless, essentially, when I notice I'm feeling icky, when I'm feeling disconnected from my sense of self-worth, because that's my worthiness doesn't change, but what can change is my connection to it. And I probably don't have to describe what that feeling feels like. We know what that feeling feels like. When you're just feeling yucky, if you notice you're saying mean things to yourself, or even just, trying to escape. That's often my indicator, is when I'm like, where are all the cookies and the booze and the TV and the soft things that I can wrap myself in? So when I notice that happening, I stop and ask myself, what story is this connected to right now? What narrative is being played out? Here's a little hint. It's probably not one that you created. It's probably one you inherited. That's the good news. That was so freeing to me when I realized that it's not mine. I didn't make it. It's a tangent I won't go on, but it's really important. So what story is this feeling connected to? So as I shared, mine's been a lot around my body right now. And so the story might be, my partner's going to leave me and never want to, have sex with me again. I'm disgusting and gross. I am just like my mother. I'm, just all the stories. What are the stories that this is connected to? And it's really helpful to just write those all out. And especially if this is new for you. So I'm not at the place anymore where I need to write them just because I'm really good at that kind of purge. I can do that as I'm standing, like waiting for the dishwasher to finish. but if writing is helpful for you, just let them all run out. Even the ones that you would never say out loud because they're that terrible. It's okay. Those are some of the most important ones, the ones that feel unspeakable. Just write them out. What are these stories? If it's helpful, where did those stories come from? Who said, who decided that was true? Who decided it was true that my partner was going to leave me and never want to have sex with me again? So if that's helpful, do that part. If it's not, let it go. And then the last part is what story is actually true? What's a different story I can tell? One that's actually true, one that I get to create. So what's actually true is that I have the most loving, sweet, patient, delicious partner that I could ever imagine. And actually, all I have to do is go and ask him if he's feeling not attracted to me. All I have to do is go talk to him. And all I have to do is reach out and connect with him physically. So writing that new story just gives me a whole new world of possibility. And it's actually the one that's true. That other story just isn't even true. It's just a made up fairy tale. And the other thing that's really powerful about getting those old stories out is they get pretty ridiculous pretty fast. Like they lose their air pretty quickly, which is good news. And over time, when I start to see the same ones showing up over and over again, then I get even more clues about where they came from and how I can begin to dismantle them. So that's my takeaway.
Thanks, Angie. Just to comment quick on what you just said with the stories start to become so like, ugh, like are you kidding me? As I've been working with EFT tapping and a different kind of model of it, and one of the rounds is really just like saying whatever is the energy blocks. And so sometimes like the basic EFT formula is a bit different than what I do, but it's like I literally will just go in and say like all the shit that's going through my head. And by like the third round of me like tapping and saying, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I'm like, I don't like, or no one's gonna ever want to work with me. No one's ever gonna want to work with me. Or no one's gonna ever want to work with me. And then I'm like, are you kidding me? By the end of it, I'm like, I can't get through the round fast enough because I'm like ready to say the truth. And like, and then it is then because you acknowledge it, like look at the monster under the bed and you're like, you're not that scary. You actually look like Monsters Inc., right? Whatever, Sully, or I can't remember his name. But like, so that was just a quick call out on that it's just, once you finally acknowledge it, and that some of these really hard ones to see are going to be hard for a while, but as you, again, talk more up, it's powerful. So that wasn't my takeaway. I just needed to make a quick comment on that. My takeaway actually was a bit about what Rob had said about, and what it really connects to me is about, like, is it your story versus others? And really giving yourself the opportunity whenever and as soon as you start to recognize that there's a misalignment, and that's even between yourself and others, but even yourself within yourself. Like, for me, most recently, it's like I'm so obsessed with my freedom, unbelievably obsessed with my freedom. And I've been living in Bali for 1.5 years, but I miss my family so bad. And I've had a shift in values. And so many people are like, are you crazy? You're going to go back to that? And I'm like, I know it sounds crazy. I can't explain, like, my values have shifted so much that it's like, I'd rather be stuck in a house with my family right now than go to the beach. It's a true shift. And so allowing the shifts to happen and not judging and constantly checking in on it. And that's been the theme of my life. And it's been something that I've gotten better and better at recognizing. I still had a lot of turmoil in this decision. I think part of that depression was part of this not opening my eyes to what was going on. But really, as soon as you recognize there's a misalignment, and with yourself or with others. So a practice in that regard is a continuous check-in on values and I don't mean it in terms of the term value, money, worthiness. I mean in, like, your personal values. So is freedom the most important value for you right now? And or is family connection, is family, right? Or it is career development, because again, any of these seasons are right. And so when you can really do a continuous evaluation every couple months, check in before a program launch, before a new business venture, what's the most important thing for me here and now? And by doing that check-in, then that's how we can define if we were successful in that period of our life or in that business venture or whatever. So, okay, my values right now for the next couple months is family, career development, and maintaining physical health right now for me. So for the next 3 months, my success is going to be if I reach these 3 values. If I don't have as much freedom, that's fine, because I have declared and understood, and these are my metrics, and I'm constantly going up against and looking at these and making sure that they're unique to you and what you are really actually important. And that comes with the decision that we are going to put our lane, we're going to swim in our own lane, just focus just on that, and let the opinions of others be so firm in your decision that you're like, that they can't even get in there. You're like, no, I'm going home. And they're like, okay. Right. So yeah, that's what my takeaway and my suggestion is, that checking in on the values, continuously cross-checking in your current season, and gauging your personal success based off of that.
Cool. I love that. Yeah, that's really ace. For me, what definitely came through there, and Rob, when you said about your kind of old life versus the life that you have now, and that being, I guess, probably a decision to do that really like hit me. So you decided to do what worked for you, which is fantastic, rather than fitting into the space that you'd fit into for all that time, which is lovely. And I wrote down, like, just after you'd said that, be yourself, be different, be brave, don't fit in. It's really much more fun and liberating and comfortable just to live as who you are. And if people don't like that, they're probably not your people, and the people that you find will be your people because they'll love you for who you are, rather than have any sort of need for you to fit in. So for me, like a journaling exercise might be that decision process, really. So who do you feel that you truly are, and what do you truly want? And then really focusing. So sometimes I'll do from the front to the back of the journal, I will notice all the things that I've done where I've followed that decision, where I've been brave and where I've shown up as myself, and you know, I've spoken my own truth. And then maybe from the back to the front, I'll notice also where I've not shown up as myself and I've not really spoken my truth and I've tried to fit in, just to sort of be able to view both of those sides, in the hope that the area that will grow is the front to the back, rather than the back to the front. But I think just that first step of noticing when you're in your balance, and noticing when you're out of your balance, and noticing the people that you're with when that's happening, noticing the environments you're in when that's happening, you know, both sides, I think could be quite powerful just as a start. So yeah, that's my takeaway.
Thank you. What's coming up for me as we're speaking is, I feel like it's a personal practice, and maybe an invitation to those who are listening, to really check in with my body. And it's quite simple. It's really, and I kind of touched on the last time, and what's kind of been coming around is, it's really obvious when we're outside of ourselves. It's really obvious when we're actually pulled in another direction. And in my experience, it becomes more obvious the more we are on this path. When, of course, sometimes we have these blind spots and it's not obvious, but when we see it, it's obvious. And there's so much wisdom in the body. My body always tells me when it's not right. You know, I'll feel like in my stomach, my lower back, my shoulder will twitch, something will happen. And I know that when I'm not paying attention to those signs, I'm not intimate, to use that word again, with my body, I don't pay attention to those signs. So my intention for myself is just to remind myself to come back to that intimate connection with my body, and to really take the time to check in with what I'm doing in that moment. As the example of that Facebook message, really check in. Okay, how is it feeling? Is this the right time? You know, what's my body saying about it? What is really here for me? What is my intention? What is really authentic to me? And kind of really create those moments, those spaces. Yeah, that's my takeaway.
And I'm going to reiterate that because for me the takeaway is the connection between the mind and the body. I asked myself two questions: who said that, and how do I feel that? And it's like the mind is this conditioned thing. There's always been a story that's given it that process to get me to that point. But I have a belief that the body always knows, and I can feel it. So if it resonates, I will feel it in the body. If it's icky, I will feel it in the body. But there's like the first question is like, who said that? Where's it coming from? And then I can feel that in the body, and I can drill down, go through those conditions, beliefs, go through where that sense of value is coming from, and really connect. Is it mine, or is it somebody else's? And what is my real truth? And I think it's like this, that sense of trust in yourself, of knowing that we all have, and that if you allow yourself to feel it, the body will tell you.
Yeah, beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for being part of this conversation. I just want to invite everyone to share maybe how people can connect with you. If they're inspired to connect with you, maybe your website, your email, Instagram.
Yeah, so the best place to start if folks want to connect with me and my work is untamingthewild.com. And there you can find my social media, hangout places. But yeah, that's a great first place to start. There you go.
For me, I use Instagram. So Instagram, you can just search my name, Chloe Handelman. but the spelling, you know, you might want to check wherever the spelling is, CHLOEHANDELMAN. But you should find me on there. And that's the best place to find out about me, what I've got going on. So.
Yeah, for me, it's my website. So www.wealth-coach.co.uk.
And you can find us in the temple, as you know. Yeah, thank you so much. Beautiful conversation. So many gifts everyone has to share. I'm blown away every time. I need a few hours to integrate it all, but thank you. Yeah, and hopefully see you soon.
Thank you.